Be the Talk, episode 157, featuring Kathy Gruver. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself, I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Kathy Gruver. Kathy, are you ready to talk?
I am ready to talk.
Kathy Gruver has graced stages on 4 continents, 3 cruise ships, and a handful of islands. Kathy earned her PhD and is the 12-time award-winning author of 7 books, including Conquer Your Stress and Journey of Healing. Kathy has studied at the famed Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at Harvard, and she has appeared on over 250 radio and TV shows, including Lifetime NPR CBS Radio. For fun and stress relief, Kathy does flying trapeze. Kathy Gruver, welcome to the talk.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is going to be a lot of fun because you recently gave a TEDx Salinas talk. It's called Trapeze, Travel, and Pink Slips. And I could relate to you on that talk because I also rented a car in Europe, and instead of just dinging up the rim like I think you said you did, I pretty much mutilated the car. Between my wife and I, it looked like the end of a Chevy Chase vacation movie. I kid you not, and we paid the price. So please take us behind your talk, man. And can't wait to discuss this more with you.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm so sorry you had that experience. Yeah, it was different. My TEDx was a little bit different. I know most people usually have this one overarching idea to their talk. Mine was actually 3 personal stories, each with a 3-word lesson. So I did share about trapeze and this concept of going for it and how trapeze is a mindfulness practice. And I also shared about my driving through the countryside of England and my lesson there, which is, change your focus. You always have the ability to look at something else because we always have that negative thing that happens, the car accident, the late train, whatever it is. But we have to change and be present and find the positivity in those things. And then the other story was about a client of mine who had to fire a coworker and the hilarity that ensued when she realized he really didn't want to be there anyway, and she drove herself crazy. And that was about why suffer twice. Why are we what-ifing ourselves in the middle of the night? I do a lot of work with stress reduction, so I was able to weave those 3 stories together to do this sort of empowerment lesson thing through my TEDx, which was really kind of fun. It was not what I had expected to talk about when I originally started that process, but that's what it morphed into, and I was really excited about it. I thought it was a blast.
Kathy, I love that you brought up the pink slip story because I think everybody, if they haven't lived that exact story themselves, they've heard about it from somebody else. It is such a common piece where the thing that keeps us up at night, the thing you mentioned what-ifing and all of this, and you even go into a little bit of detail in the talk, talking about some of the symptoms, and this person got physically sick all for nothing because she wasn't aware enough to realize the possibility that the person that she had to fire would be just as happy quitting.
Right.
and that would be a huge win-win. And it's easy to see how we can overlook that, especially when the mandate comes down from on high. So why did that why that story? Why did that make the talk instead of many of the hundreds of other stories that you have?
Yeah, the other one that I have that's similar to that was about a client whose husband was dealing with cancer treatment, and she was really concerned that, what if they did this test and it turned out his cancer was still there, and, she drove herself crazy over a weekend. It was such a downer story. And I'm always, it's like, let's talk about cancer now in the middle of all this. And it was a shorter piece. And it was, I thought, I love incorporating humor. I used to be an actor and I did improv. And, so to me, if you can make people laugh through it. So to tell the pink slip story where it was, it was such an exaggerated example. It was right before Christmas. They just had a baby. They just bought a house. He just moved his family. It can't get any worse. So that's why it's such an ironic ending of his response to that whole thing. And she really did drive herself to madness. So all of those things, it's that, the thing of three. It's funny. It was a horrible situation. and she drove herself crazy, and it had a twist ending. It was the perfect story to use as that example, rather than, then there's cancer, It just seemed to be the one that kind of fit, and I actually did ponder, like, oh my gosh, we have all done that to ourselves. Which story? And that was the one that popped in. So yeah, I kind of went with it.
So, Talk Universe, I think we can learn a little bit from Kathy's example here. If it's the idea of, the energy in the room, you want to keep it light whenever possible. You want to, if you have a choice between a downer story and an upper punchline story, go for the punchline story, unless your whole point of your talk is to do something other than that. Other things equal, you want to bring the audience level up. You want to vary, the feelings and the emotions and tilt it upward rather than downward. Kathy, I have a mentor, and he has been the one that really has helped me understand that one of everyone's mental faculties is the faculty of imagination. And we have the ability in our mind to create stories and read into things. And the pink slip story is just a perfect example of using our imagination in a negative way to create a falsely negative story when we really don't even know the facts. And I love that story because it just kind of redeems itself in the end, but we can all relate to it because we've all used our imagination, not for good, but we've used it to help us worry more. And we've been at the mercy many times, many of us, of our imagination. So I think that just brilliantly and beautifully illustrates vicariously in somebody else's life the power of what can happen in a negative way when we use our imagination for just by default instead of by design. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, absolutely. And that's where that story came from is, when I go around the world and teach stress reduction, one of the things I talk about is staying present. And I work so hard on that presence. I do a lot of studying of Eckhart Tolle's work and the power of now and the power of present and the power of our minds. And I'm also a total study nerd. I love reading scientific studies. And, when you can hand asthmatics whose trigger is cat dander blankets and say, put this on your face, it's covered in cat dander, and they have this asthmatic physiological response to it, and it turns out the blankets are perfectly clean, they've never been near a cat. We have this amazing ability to change our physiology and to change things with the power of our minds, with our thoughts. We have thoughts running all day, 60,000. 50,000 of those are negative. That's insane. So those are going to have outcomes. Those, if nothing else, are going to put us into a stress response. So when we're going to do those daydreams, when we're going to do those affirmations, oh my gosh, we have a choice. We can make them positive or negative. So let's change the story to the thing that's going to be the most beneficial to us, to allow us to achieve more, to allow us to have those things we want in our lives. And that story, like you said, to me, is just the perfect illustration of how we can physically drive ourselves mad just by what we're thinking about. So why are we doing that to ourselves? It's so detrimental. We have enough stuff outside of ourselves as negative. Let's at least change our own mind to be as positive as we can. And let's take that laugh when we can get it,
Let's do it, Talk Universe. We've been enjoying this conversation with Kathy Gruver. Her talk is called Trapeze, Travel, and Pink Slips. And in just a moment, we're going to pivot over to you, Talk Universe, for the Blitz Round. People ask, how could I start a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's because of what I've learned from my mentors. Some of the best mentors in history aren't around anymore. They've left hours of one-on-one mentoring behind in their books. Each month at Classics on Tap, I record a new chapter from a classic business book to help you make a difference. Download your first chapter at classicsontap.com. And we're back with Kathy Gruver. It is time for the Blitz Round. This is when I'm going to ask Kathy a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent branded talk. Kathy, are you ready?
I am ready.
First question, were you selected to speak or did you apply?
I applied.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
Well, that's a hard one.
I can see you thinking from through the cyberspace.
I'm not a memorizer. I do not type out an entire talk and memorize it. I do not think that works. So I'm more an improviser.
How did that serve you?
Perfect. That's how I always do it. Yeah.
All right. So I know you're speaking all over the place, doing interviews and everything else. Sometimes the branded stage can be much different. So for this talk, did you have nerves, or were you in the zone, or neither, or both?
I was in the zone.
All right. How do you get in the zone?
I just wake up and I'm in the zone.
I'm talking to the mindfulness person here. So,
sure.
I mean, that's unconscious competency here, I guess.
Right. No, I do meditate a little bit before I do anything. I do a little I am at peace mini meditation. And if I can I'm going to interrupt your lightning round for a second.
Okay.
Right before I went on stage to do my TEDx, I got a text that one of my clients and good friends was in the hospital just having a heart attack.
Oh.
So literally moments before I step on stage, hey, so-and-so had a heart attack. I'm like, okay, can I just get on stage?
Oh, my word. Talk Universe. Talk Universe, it might be a good idea to just shut your phone down like the entire morning of your talk to avoid. Give it to a holder or a keeper in the audience with very specific criteria. Maybe that's my suggestion. Sorry, I'm interrupting your Blitz Round now. What is, Kathy, what is a tip, technique, or tool that helped you?
Breathe, smile, don't worry about anything else.
What's the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
Well, we covered that right as I was about to go on stage.
Other than the text. Other than the text.
The organizer had a concussion a couple days before, and so she was not feeling well. So I ended up jumping in and emceeing the second half of the TEDx.
Oh, wow.
Total improv. I introduced every other speaker. I didn't know these people, so I memorized their bio. And I got on stage and I improvised the rest of the TEDx.
Kathy, please do not tell me you were also in the second half.
No.
Good.
No, it was after my talk. But literally, she wasn't feeling well, and we all felt horrible. So I said, do you want me to go do? She said, yes. And so I memorized everybody's intro, and I introduced the rest of the day.
Wow. Now then,
it gets weirder. They forgot to strike the band because we had a band sort of like at the halfway point. And so as they were striking the band, I went out and basically did a whole nother improvised talk. I talked for another 7 minutes and I taught everyone a meditation
Wow. Okay. Well, all right. Hey, Talk Universe. This is why we talk about this stuff, because there's no telling what you might be asked to do, or there's no telling what you might need to step up and do if you have the chops to do it. So, Kathy, you are absolutely an improviser. I applaud you, madam, for that job. And, I've never heard of that before, but what a wonderful thing to be able to do, in a difficult situation. Here is the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
Oh, wow. I actually didn't have a section because I kept it real. I designed it specifically to fit the time frame, so they didn't cut anything. I got to put in every word that I wanted to. Wow.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm looking at, I'm looking at all this. Yeah. So no cuts. That's wonderful. And, I think what we're going to do at this point is let you know where you can find out more about Kathy's work, as well as see her talk, Trapeze, travel, and pink slips. You can go to our show notes page if you don't want to type that into YouTube at BeTheTalk.com and be able to check out that talk that we are talking about. You can also check out Kathy at her website at KathyGruver.com. Gruver is spelled Gruver, KathyGruver.com, and we'll have a link for that as well. And we're going to be back right away with Kathy Gruver for the final word of advice. Everyone wants to change the world, but not everyone knows the first step. Before you can change the world with your talk, it has to be selected. So grab the templates, timelines, and tools that I use to get my talk selected at BeTheTalk.com. And we're back with Kathy Gruver's final word of advice to Talk Universe.
Go for it. It's that simple. If you want to do it, go for it. Stretch yourself, take those risks, and just make a different choice.
Kathy Gruver, thanks so much for coming on the Talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.